9:30 p.m. and it's the view out the galley window.
We got a chance to watch an eagle eating his dinner, but he hid it behind the rock from us. We also got a chance to watch a variety of sea otters in the anchorage and around, playing, feeding, and doing whatever sea otters do.
Eagles are talking. Right outside of Mud Bay. Home of skittish sea otters. Do you think it's a baby calling? See the other one over there? She's gonna scare us away. Okay. You got it. We're leaving. Trying to catch the bait fish. We'll see if I get anything.
Here in Mud Bay tonight, anchored out, cooking hamburgers on the barbecue. Getting ready to have dinner on the fly bridge. The view this evening. Really nice, sunny, warm. After all the rain, it's really been nice.
Trying our hand at fishing in the in the bay by Port.
Mud Bay.
By Mud Bay, yes, in Port something. We're watching the lines.
There's any fish here, but otherwise float around in the tender in the sun.
Absolutely. There's sunshine. Woohoo! It's a beautiful sunny morning and we have departed Mud Bay and we're heading back out to the strait. Gonna try some fishing and work our way to Red Bluff. Alright, we're in Chatham Strait. There's a fisherman up there fishing, and we put the fish in the water early in the bay when we started feeling the swells, and then we started fishing, and now we are giving it a try. Okay, do you want to give us a tour?
Sure, I'm working hard back here fishing. We've got the 2 downriggers out, the 2 poles, the net's ready to go. If
Where's
we
the
need to net
cooler?
a fish,
Oh, and we have a cooler. Okay.
if we need to net a fish, we'll go on the swim step, but I've got the life jacket and harness, so I'll be all clipped in if needed.
Hopefully, it'll be needed.
Yeah.
All right.
Otherwise, it's a beautiful day.
Yes, it is. It's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Like Mr. Rogers, is that right? We left Mud Bay about an hour and a half ago, came out around Harris Point, slowed up, started salmon fishing, fished for about 20 minutes, caught one nice salmon, about maybe 6 or 7 pounds, something like that. Good for like 2 dinners. We got about a 3-foot chop going though, with about 18 knots of wind coming over the bow, so one is enough, and we're on our way. Now cruising toward Red Bluff Bay. I think that's the name of it. About a 6-hour cruise today. And hopefully the weather will calm down, the seas will calm down a little bit as we move north.
Beautiful scenery off the east side of Baranof.
We left Mud Bay with the plan to go to Red Bluff Bay, about a 6-hour run north. And you heard me say that I was hoping the seas would calm down as we went further north. Well, they didn't. So we decided to divert course here and head due west to Little Port Walter. And we are sure glad we did, because it turned out to be a great stop.
Looking up the inlet at Port Walter.
Do we call this like kayak cam? The camera's on my forehead on the kayak. I got kayak cam on. I already did around the boat a little when you were getting Blake. Oh, those are kings. Yeah, I think so. Maybe silvers. I don't know if you can see them. See if I can get to where I can see them in the camera. This is a NOAA Research Center and Fish Research Center here. So I'm not sure exactly what they're doing. Hopefully I got some good pictures of it you can see, but there's a lot of salmon in the water here. The caretaker let us know they've been having trouble with a female grizzly and her cubs around the station. And as soon as we got back to the boat, we saw her right by their housing building, so we let them know on the radio. And the big white house heard too.
Yeah. We're in Little Port Walter. This is the entrance to the bay. It's about 6 a.m. and we're noticing that it's calm, and the flag at the NOAA station is doing nothing, which means that there's little wind hopefully on the strait. There's the NOAA station, and we chatted with them briefly, and it was built in the 1920s, and it is the longest running continuous NOAA station in Alaska. I think I got that right. And it's manned year-round. And then next to that is the little brown structure is the caretaker's house. Goes by Walrus and is on VHF 82. We chatted with him for a little while. And that's where we learned about the bears. And over here is the creek where we saw the salmon jumping, and this is where they capture the salmon for harvesting the eggs. And so it sounds like this is a really busy place pretty year round. But while we were here during our visit, it was pretty quiet and sunny and beautiful. We had a lovely time here. This is the rest of the bay. Yeah, I hope so.
I got it. You can pour coffee if you want. You're going to steer it.
Okay, what's this baloney?
All right, we left our anchorage this morning at Little Port Walter. Dead calm in the anchorage right around the corner to the open water. And then I got out here and it's like a 3 or 4 foot chop that's about 2 seconds apart that's causing quite a bit of pitch.
With occasional really big ones.
Yeah, occasionally big ones. So, you know, our anchor sits about 9 feet off the water, and when the anchor starts touching the water on the waves, it gets a little pitchy, a little uncomfortable. So, and admittedly, we didn't do a very good job preparing for any water like this. So there's some stuff in the galley cab that's bouncing around, and so there's an anchorage about 30 minutes ahead of us. So we're going to duck in, have a cup of coffee, really get the galley a little more prepped. There's a nice sized one. And then continue on a little bit later. Plus right now we've got we've had up to 25 knots of wind on the bow. It's less now. But we have wind opposing current, which is causing these short, steep chops. So I think we'll work on getting out of here for a little bit, get ourselves together,
Let the current change
direction, and head on out. Here's a nice one. Yeah, the cats don't think much of this either.
Neither do the parents.
Yeah, not so much.
It looks pretty calm out there in the strait. We are taking respite behind this point here, Patterson Point, and we noticed that there were a bunch of fish boats here. So instead of hiding in Mist Cove that looked like it had a home in the back of it with nets across the bay, we decided to turn around and do what the locals do, and we dropped some fish and line in the water, and we are fortunate enough to have caught a few fish. poles are out back here. We have a beautiful view. And yeah. And Jim and Blake are watching the lines. Actually, I think Blake is watching the fish in the water, and Jim is watching the lines. And Barkley just wants to play. Yeah.
How long have we been fishing?
Half hour maybe.
You'd say half hour.
All right. We've had about a half an hour, and we have 3 nice fish in the cooler. Blake is watching the shenanigans. We are in the back of Deep Bay, and we had hopes of maybe finding an anchorage, and we may still. But take a look at this view. This is a gorgeous waterfall and high mountain peaks with snow. It's beautiful back here.
Here's the Patterson Point area. We fished in this area, then went back out to head north and did a U-turn. Red Bluff Bay wasn't in the cards for today. Then we went to the head of Deep Bay and then came back out and went up Patterson Bay, finally anchoring in this little bight that didn't have a name.
And now Jim has to do the other half of the catching job.
Stay tuned for our next episode where we encounter some intense wind in the anchorage, lots of rain, and again, make an attempt to make it to Red Bluff Bay. Until then, wishing you no wind and flat seas. Stay tuned for our regular Q&A. Time for another Q&A session. First, thanks for all the great questions and comments relating to the electrical upgrade video that I did. I'm glad that it seems like a lot of people really enjoyed that tech talk on our electrical upgrade. All right, let's get right to some questions. The first question from Ken was, I understand you have 2 engines. Do you ever use full throttle? And why do you run at a lower throttle? Great question. Well, we do have twin engines. They're twin Ford Lehman 120 horsepower engines. Real quickly, full throttle is about 2,500 RPM. They're made for continuous duty. That means to run 24 hours a day at 2,000 RPM. We only run them at 1,500 RPM, which is a little bit low, but they do run at full temperature at that RPM. We do occasionally run them all the way up to full throttle, just to make sure everything is working good and get them really nice and hot the way diesel engines like to occasionally be. The reason we run at 1,500 RPM, it's the most efficient speed. And if you go to the fuel management video, I think I talked more about that issue in that video. But at the end of the day, we burn about 3.15 gallons of diesel per hour at 7 knots. That's both engines combined. To increase to 2,000 RPM, we go from 7 to about 8.5 knots and double the fuel usage. So the extra knot and a half takes twice the amount of fuel, and that just doesn't make any sense to us. We're not in a hurry. So 7 knots, 1,500 RPM works just right. All right, next question. All right, this is from Gordon, and it's not really a question. It's related to the last time I did a Q&A when we talked about Washington State Park buoys and using those buoys. And Gordon correctly pointed out I made a mistake when I said if your boat is 40 foot or smaller, the park buoys are great. In fact, the park buoys are 45 foot and smaller. And Gordon pointed that out because he has a 47 foot boat. The only thing I would add to that, besides apologies for getting that incorrect, is that I do believe that Blake Island State Park now even has a further restriction. So check that out before you go to Blake Island if you're pushing the envelope there on the size of boats for the state buoys. Thanks, Gordon, for catching my mistake. I appreciate it. All right, next question. Carl asked the brand and size of the solar panels we installed in our Benemy top. You know, I reviewed that as part of our electrical upgrade. I talked about there being flexible solar panels sewn into our Benemy top. We did Renergy panels, the flexible panels. We did 6 100-watt panels. They also make a 150 watt panel. We just picked the 100 watt panel because 6 of them happened to fit in the footprint that we had up on the top. But thanks for asking. By the way, those panels have been working great. The next question from Ricky is, you went from 8 batteries of the lead acid batteries to 4 even smaller lithium batteries, and were you able to utilize the extra space? And the answer to that is yes. Where our new scuba dive compressor, our machine for filling the scuba tanks, is located is where 4 of the old lead acid batteries used to be. So we immediately figured out a way to fill that space. So great question, thanks. All right, next question. James asked about our new swim platform that he has seen in the videos. And there is a new tech talk coming out that I completed. It's a very short video, 5 or 6 minutes, about the swim platform. And you're going to see that video shortly. And then we kind of go over the beginning, middle, and end stages of redesigning and creating Sea Venture's new swim platform. We're at our last question for today from Jerry. Is it hard when you're cruising in Canada and Alaska to get fresh water? And does Sea Venture have a water maker? And the answer to that question is yes to both. It can be hard to get fresh water. We found in Southeast Alaska it was pretty readily available in the individual towns, but the towns are spread out. And if you don't have a water maker, that may well drive your cruising, having to get to those towns however often you would need to for some fresh water. In Canada, I think it's even more difficult to get fresh water, and in some places I think they're even charging for it now. But the marinas are frankly even further spread apart, especially in the central and northern portions of British Columbia. And if you're out at Haida Gwaii, and if you'll remember, we spent the summer of 2017 out there and did a whole series. The southern half of Haida Gwaii really has no facilities at all, and so you'd end up going quite a long time without access to fresh water if you didn't have a water maker. Sea Venture, we carry 1,200 gallons of fresh water in our tanks, and we have a Spectra 300 water maker that can make up to 300 gallons per day. So we're good with water. We don't ever need to go to a dock looking for fresh water. So that's going to wrap up the Q&A for today. Thank you all for those great questions. If you have a question, you can leave it in the comment section of YouTube, or you can always just email me directly at cruisingseaventure@gmail.com, and I'll do my best to answer the questions just as soon as I can, as long as we're not off cruising and boating, which I think we're going to head out to do tomorrow. All right, talk to everyone later, and bye, and wishing you no wind and flat seas.